Track 6, Where I Belong.
Where I Belong.
Question mark?
Yeah. Those... I don't know why I forgot about this picture. This is just a picture I took of the single art for it, or not the single art, whatever the art for it is, these buffalo in South Africa, and I just painted them different colors, like they're fashionable buffalo. Where I Belong. I can't remember when I started writing this. Usually I write a verse and a chorus, and then I got to finish a song a year later, so then that's when the work begins. It's about, I thought that the ideas of identity had been corrupted by everybody. I think identity is one of the most interesting and deep questions. And then this need to ironically box in identity prevents it from being discussed properly. So.
Well, also this kind of superficial attachment to identity that you were kind of touching on, this need to attach your identity to some sort of external manifestation, whether it's fashion or, piercings or whatever, The
UBU type thing.
Yeah.
I feel like it interferes with a real question, which is perennial and has been around forever, which is what are you and what constitutes you, and where did you even get this idea of you? And then, what artificial ideas do you limit that definition with, and so on. And so it's like an endless question.
Yeah, the minute you identify yourself and label yourself as something, it shuts down a whole world of questions that could drive the rest of your life and and discovery and that sort of thing.
My favorite lyric from it is, my shoes are a personality, a fractal of my geometry. And that sums it up for me kind of perfectly, as if this thing that you're wearing on your feet that someone else created is somehow a fractal of your internal and innate geometry or essence. And the sarcasm and the cynicism in that lyric, which Danny does very well in most of his songs, sums up this idea of the superficiality of superficial way of looking at identity.
Yeah, okay, that reminded me of what inspired the song. I think it was a documentary about Mandelbrot, this guy who worked at IBM, and he discovered fractal geometry. Or he didn't discover it. It was around, for a couple hundred years before him, but they hadn't really named it and named what it is. And it's fractal geometry is, you've probably heard of it and seen it, and you've probably seen the Mandelbrot series. It's when each smaller iteration represents like the larger iteration of what either a function could describe or something along those lines. And another like linguistic word for fractal is a synecdoche, and that's one of our favorite movies is Synecdoche, New York. It's where Philip Seymour Hoffman plays this playwright, and he ends up designing this city and costing himself in the play and following himself around in the play. So it's fractal in nature,
It's like pointing a camera at a television screen,
right?
It's
Yeah,
plugged into it, and you have this loop, endless.
I thought that was one of the best movies ever that I almost don't want to watch again because it was so difficult to watch. I don't mean like emotionally difficult. It was just you just had to pay such attention. It was so hugely complex that it's like it made my brain bloody hurt.
Initially, I was not into it because I was like, oh, this is pretentious, and it redeemed itself, and it was all done intentionally.
I just have such a vivid memory of watching that movie, where I would say almost 75% of the movie I was intent on disliking it. I could not bring myself to like it, and then there was sort of a turning point somehow where it was almost revelatory. I was like, holy shit, this movie is amazing. And then from that point on, I just couldn't believe how good it was, Is
that Kaufman, Charlie Kaufman that wrote it, or not?
Yeah, it's Kaufman. Yeah,
and, that's my favorite kind of art where it really takes a left turn or surprises you in a way that you didn't think you could be surprised. And so, I mean, bringing it back to your song, this idea of a fragment of something being representing the whole structure, where you can see the entire structure in a piece of it. I know that's quite a sort of deep mathematical, philosophical idea, but I think what I could grasp from it off the bat was, lines like, I think I need a new identity, a hotel with more amenities, just placing these contradictory things next to each other in a lyric saying, I need something, I need my identity to be redefined. And I also need like a robe and slippers, in my bedroom. I think it highlights the difference between approaching the subject of identity seriously and thinking about it in an internal way versus attaching it to some totally meaningless, superficial thing, such as comfort, fashion, some superficial expression of it.
Each one of those things, I feel like for me was a almost specific reference for myself. The idea of being interested in fractals and this very interesting idea, and then also getting a sense of new identity from a pair of shoes, and then realizing that it was ridiculous. Or if we stayed at a 5-star hotel on tour one time or whatever, and they had a robe and that kind of thing, and as you start to take up your environment as though it's you, and occasionally if you catch yourself, it destroys that little illusion. But it's just very funny. For me, it's very funny to catch myself thinking that I'm sophisticated or that, or whatever, something like that.
The chorus is kind of about that, where that element, either the observer in you or whatever catches yourself and says, I play along, but all my life I want, that's the actual sincere part of the song, is the chorus saying, like, I play along with all this stuff, but deep down there's a part of me that goes, where do I belong, or like what? Yeah. Who am I?